with that being said, Mike Sofka and I are here today on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're hanging out with you inside of the Charney's Menswear and Tuxedo Studios, having ourselves some fun here this morning. And Mr. Sofka is of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. He's right there. I'm of WakeUpCallDT.com. I'm right here. And we're inside of the Charney's Menswear and Tuxedo Studios, which is right, yeah. And I am wearing today, I'm wearing a tank top, right? I'm wearing the tank. I got the arms are out and ready to get tan. The tan is already there. Look at that. I wore this for you, Mike, because of all the times that you called me up and you said, hey, what's the temperature? 12 degrees. Oh, it's 70 here. I'm about to get in the pool. Well, good for you, Mike. Today it's going to be 91, if not 93. Today's 45 days straight of me walking 10,000 plus steps, and your boy has a tank top on in the studio. So this is my best day, as I told people before, speak it into existence. So how are you this morning, my good buddy?
I'm doing awesome. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing good. I'm just happy that the weather is finally cooperating. We have fantastic, I shouldn't say finally, it's been fantastic for weeks. And I'm really excited about this. So one of our viewers said, nice guns. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. That's good. That's good. Mike, you know what? Mike Sofka never tells me I have nice guns, so at least somebody's telling me that. So we got quarterback rankings, Mike. Go ahead. What are you going to say? Go ahead.
No, I was going to open with that. I was going to open with Suns Out, Guns Out.
That's right.
You stole my thunder. Thanks, the invisible man. He's not even on the show right now.
Oh, thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. So I took a lot of notes. I got notes here. And some things are going to shock you. Okay, before we start with our quarterback rankings, Mike, I know you know this because I know you got your numbers too. But the passing leader last year, the passing leader in the NFL, Jameis Winston, 5,109 yards. Okay, now he's a backup to the Saints, not the Tampa Bay quarterback anymore. Completion percentage leader last year, Drew Brees. 74.3%. Behind him, Derek Carr of the Raiders at 70.4%, and Ryan Tannehill behind that. And then tied for fourth, Jimmy Garoppolo and Kirk Cousins, then Teddy Bridgewater. Then you start getting into the Deshaun Watsons and company. Passing touchdown leaders last year, Lamar Jackson, number 1. Number 2, Jameis Winston. Then Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott and company. And then a few other things here. I have rushing yards, Lamar Jackson. That wasn't a surprise out of all of these. But here's one that'll get you. Rushing touchdown leaders for quarterbacks last year. Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. 9 touchdowns. Behind him, Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson. Then Kyler Murray. And Fitzpatrick had as many rushing touchdowns as Kyler Murray. So did Andy Dalton. So that confuses me very much so. And Pat Mahomes only had 2. So everybody thinks about Pat Mahomes being able to run the ball and what he did to the Tennessee Titans in the playoff game, and he only had 2. So a lot of stuff here, Mike. A lot of notes, and keeping me up until midnight because that's when Papa likes to go to work. So a lot of stuff, but let's get into it. Who is your number 1 fantasy quarterback this upcoming season?
Well, I'm glad you questioned that with that comment in there, fantasy. Because you spit out some leaders, and it's great for Jameis Winston to lead the league in passing touchdowns. But when you lead the league with almost an equivalent in interceptions,
33,
those things kind of cancel each other out. So that doesn't matter. I'm not concerned. And that's where a lot of fantasy football players go wrong. They look at things like, well, who got the most touchdowns last year? Well, if you're going by that, you're going by the wrong information. So be careful where you get the information from. You know, you could pick a lot of guys to be your number 1 guy, but why wouldn't you want your number 1 guy to be the number 1 guy? That's the idea. Pick the number 1 guy. Don't pick a guy who could be number 1. Pick the number 1 guy. Unfortunately, it came down to a coin flip for me. It really did. A coin flip is how I determine number 1 versus number 2. And I'm going to stay with Patrick Mahomes because he brought home the hardware.
Yeah.
He won when it counted. He's the guy that's going to carry me through those championship weeks in my fantasy football league, provided they don't run through the division, which I think they'll run through the division. I don't think they'll run through the conference because Well, another guy coming up here shortly is going to have a say about that, but I'm going to have to go with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, that being your number one guy, and if we look at Mahomes' numbers from last year, Pat Mahomes, and I'm going to see, I'm a note taker. I know some people do it on the computer, and I know it's funny because obviously Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is so connected to the internet and connected to technology, but I will never, nothing can ever substitute a pen and a pad to me. I love it. I'm always taking notes when I'm on planes. I'm always doing some type of work. I'm writing some movie that's in my brain or whatever it may be. Or I'm writing notes on how Mike Sofka. I'm actually writing comments, nice things that Mike can say to me during the show. I'm writing those and I'm sending them to him. From what is it on Game of Thrones? You send it through the Ravens. So, and we'll talk about the Ravens very soon. Pat Mahomes, 4,031 yards passing this past season. His completion percentage, 65.9%, and his touchdowns were 26, which had him tied for sixth in just sheer numbers. But I think you got to put Pat Mahomes up here. He's got a lot of talent. They've added to the talent. They've now given him a running back that can help him out from LSU, that could take some pressure off. We both thought he was going to get a running back. I thought he was going to go I thought he was going to go with Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, and he ended up going to LSU, or the Chiefs ended up going to LSU. But ultimately, I think it really helps them out. This was a coin flip for me too. To be full disclosure, I clicked live on this morning, and as you were talking, my head was still going Lamar Pat, because if I have that opportunity, I'm still kind of, what am I going to do? But Pat Mahomes, I said it a couple of years ago. I said if he keeps his numbers on pace, and he does well, I said it this past season, maybe even before, if he stays on pace with the numbers he has. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He's got fantastic numbers. He's only been in the league for a few seasons. He could end up being arguably one of the best, if not top three, if not, to some people, the best quarterback in NFL history. So it was hard for me to say no to him. But obviously, y'all know what my number two is going to be. But yeah, Pat Mahomes. I think if you have the opportunity, you don't pick him number one overall in your fantasy draft. Be smarter than that. Mike and I have taught you better. But if the first quarterback off the board's got to be Pat Mahomes. So who's number two for you?
Well, obviously Lamar Jackson. You take the opportunity for him to run with the ball as well as pass the ball. They run out, they pick up another receiver in Duvernay, and it's not miss over the fact that Kansas City added a great running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Thank you, folks. I got that finally.
I'm happy you did that because of what I did last week. So I am happy.
Look, the Chiefs bolstered their running game. The Ravens already had a running attack behind Mark Ingram and company and Lamar Jackson. What do? They up their running game. They go J.K. Dobbins, which could only help Lamar Jackson as well. So I look forward to Lamar Jackson going to okey doke on a lot of people this year. What was Muhammad Ali, the rope-a-dope? He's got him up against the ropes. He looks like, and all of a sudden he spins him around, and he's the aggressor.
Yeah.
That could happen here. You could see Lamar Jackson with a lot more passing yards, stretching the field a lot more. But I think it's going to be about the same for him in running and passing and percentage and yardage. And that's all they need. They don't need him to be Superman. They need him to lead the team. And that's one thing Lamar Jackson's been able to do at such a young age and early stage in his career. That's why he warrants a number 2 selection on my fantasy rankings for quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I got to give it to Lamar as well. He's the only quarterback this past season to have over 1,000 rushing yards. He had 1,206, I believe. Let me consult my notepad. Yes, he did. He also had 7 touchdowns, which put him only behind Josh Allen of the Bills, who I found out could run the ball over these last couple of years. Passing touchdowns, he was number 1 with 36. I find it incredible and so awesome and so sweeter than anything for Lamar, but also sweet for Papa Tortora here, because when he came into the NFL and even before he did, I said, hey, this Lamar Jackson guy, I like him. I know he plays for Louisville, and I know Syracuse fans get frustrated, but talent alone, listen, I cover the whole ACC. And I have a lot of respect for him. I interviewed him. I interviewed Bobby Petrino about him. I am such a fan of Lamar Jackson. I've been a fan of Lamar Jackson. I said it was going to work. I said he should have been handed the keys when he came in because there was already a bunch of changes in place. I told you that Joe Flacco was not for long in Baltimore. I put it all out there. I put the stage out there. They finally gave him the job. I would have given it to him a little bit sooner, but I said it would work. Now, did I know it was going to work to the tune of the best record in the NFL? No. Did I know that it was going to be that good and that productive? No. But one of the things that I love more than anything is what he said when he threw 5 touchdowns in a game. And the media said, well, what do you think about throwing 5 touchdowns? Blah, blah, blah. And his response was, pretty good for a running back. And then he led the entire nation of 32 NFL franchises in passing touchdowns. So let somebody tell me once again, he can't pass the ball. He's not a good passer. He just doesn't pass. I don't think he passes. I don't think he knows how to pass. 36 touchdowns. Led the entire country. So, keep saying whatever you want to say about Lamar, and he'll keep proving it wrong. And the more he proves it wrong, the more fun I'm going to have. He is my number 2. And still, it's going to be so hard for me if him and Mahomes are on the board in my league. I'm going to be, I'm going to be sweating. I just hope that it's not Mike and I picking next to each other because, if I don't get one, let it go to a team that doesn't know what they're doing. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. Leave Lamar on the bench for 6 weeks. I'm kidding. But we won't let you do that. Thank you, Ross, for positive words here. But Lamar is our number 2 guy. He's got to be. I'm going to be happy with either one of these gentlemen. If I miss out on them both, I will be. I'll be crying into a Kigley from our local Lincourt Bakery here in Central New York, Mike, that you need to come to. Who is your number 3 quarterback in fantasy rankings this year?
Well, this may shock some people because you take away one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the league. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about Nuke. I'm talking about Hopkins getting traded. They bring in a guy who's questionable at running back. I'm not sure what's going to happen. It doesn't matter. Deshaun Watson's a winner. Deshaun Watson's going to get it done. Now, mind you, he's got some yards to make up.
Yeah.
Getting rid of Nuke, getting rid of your number 1 option, getting rid of your deep threat, getting rid of the guy you can always count on to go up and make the play. They bring in Brandon Cooks, not Nuke Hopkins. I get it. Can Will Fuller stay healthy this year? Can the new running back that they have in David Johnson, can he reach in and reach back to 2 years ago when he was on fire? Can he do that? That would help him out a lot. It doesn't matter. Deshaun Watson's the number 3 quarterback in fantasy this year.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said that it might surprise some people because to me, it's no question. It's Deshaun Watson. So, I have Deshaun Watson here as well. He's just a talent. He's a treasure. Again, another guy I got to cover in covering the ACC and covered him at Clemson. The game that comes to mind the most to me is the ACC championship game, which was played at Camping World Stadium in Orlando. And that was a game where Justin Fuente was the head coach of Virginia Tech for his first season there. And he can't believe that's, 5 years ago now? But when he came in, Virginia Tech played them so tough and so well, and Deshaun just never gave up. He never said die. He kept pushing. Now, granted, he had great hands, and we talked about Hunter Renfrow of the Raiders. And, he had some great guys on that team, and Deion Kane as well, who's trying to find some footing in the NFL. But, Deshaun Watson, what I'm getting to by this is saying, you want to have some good receivers, and he arguably had the best one in the game. But now, even without that, I think Deshaun Watson's still dangerous. His completion percentage is over 60%. This season, he threw for 3,852 yards. It's important to know, do you get a point for every 20 yards your quarterback throws a game or 10 yards your quarterback throws a game? That's important to make note of. Deshaun Watson also passing touchdowns. He had 26 this season, which was 10 behind Lamar Jackson, but still he could do it. And he's in the top 4 in rushing yards for quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, and Deshaun Watson. Watson has 413, and he tied Lamar Jackson for rushing touchdowns this season, which I think is key in us making this argument that he is your number 3 guy. So I agree with you. We have agreed for our top 3 so far. Mike and I are releasing our fantasy quarterback rankings this morning. Number 1, Pat Mahomes. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. Number 3, Deshaun Watson. I know that we're going to start to differentiate as we go down the line, but who is your number 4?
This may shock some people as well, especially because of the contract negotiations that are still public right now. I'm going to go with Dak Prescott. He's only got one of the best offensive lines. He's got one of the best running attacks. He's got one of the better defenses out there, and I never underestimate the power of a defense on your own team to benefit the quarterback. And what did they do? They had CeeDee Lamb fall right into their lap. I think CeeDee Lamb could take over as the number one receiver on that team very soon. I'm not going to say it's going to be this year. I'm not going to say it's going to be week 5. It could, but it's probably not. Usually the learning curve is a little bit different for receivers. It usually takes 3 years. The only guys who circumvent that curve are guys like Randy Moss. CeeDee Lamb could be a Randy Moss type guy. I'm not saying he's going to be Randy Moss. Go ahead and take that out. Stop the hate mail. Stop the tweets. What I'm saying is, if you put that many weapons around a guy who's proven when he has weapons he can be successful, he's going to be successful.
Yeah.
You can rest assured he's the number 4 quarterback on my fantasy rankings so far this year.
You know, and Mike, I don't know if we're cheating off each other's papers right now, but I have Dak Prescott as well. There's another gentleman, and I'm not going to release his name, but I don't think he has as good of a receiving core, and that has kept him from being my number 4 because I think talent-wise I can argue him there, but I just can't see it from what he has. I mean, Deshaun Watson, there's something to be said about his ability to run and the things that he can do, and I think that when we look at Pat Mahomes, we look at Lamar Jackson, we look at Deshaun Watson, our top 3, what do they all have in common? Not only are they successful, not only are they up at the top or close to the top in a lot of the statistics from last season, but they can all run. And this other guy, I kind of go back and forth with it. If he doesn't have the best talent out there at wide receiver, do I trust him to run? And so that's where I stop. So I'm going to give number 4 to Dak Prescott as well. I'm going to give it to Dak because I think that, Jerry Jones, who from the outside looking in, seemingly thinks every decision he makes is the right decision. You know, I made a decision one time because I had a peanut butter sandwich and I was still hungry. And then I made a tuna sandwich shortly after. And then I thought to myself, why waste the bread and why waste the time? Just put peanut butter and tuna together. And then my life got weird and my stomach got very upset. I think that's Jerry Jones. He's like, I got peanut butter, I got tuna, why not put them together? Well, right now, don't tell Jerry, but he's making a lot of good decisions. And one of them was when CeeDee Lamb fell into their lap. And I think with CeeDee Lamb, and again, Amari Cooper, he just made $20 million. And he's one of the highest paid players in the NFL right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how is he going to react to this. You know, is he going to be the type of wide receiver that is going to play to that contract's money? Or is he going to be the type of wide receiver that says, I got paid, now I don't have to play that hard? So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to this. But if he reacts well, you have Mr. Gallup, plus you have Dak Prescott. Or, pardon me, you have Gallup, you have Amari Cooper, and you have CeeDee Lamb. So to me, there's a lot to gain from this. I think that Dak has not been as consistent as I want him to be, but he has the capability of doing some great things. They get to play half their season indoors, and I think he's the best talent that the Cowboys have seen at quarterback in a very long time. So, I am more high on him this year than maybe I've been in the last couple of years. But I'm going to go with Dak Prescott at number 4 for sure. You're smiling. Why are you smiling?
I just think it's funny. We're over 1,000 miles apart, and you're cheating off my paper somehow. I'm real concerned.
Man, listen, those Amazon drones work really well. So, what do you have for number 5?
Yeah, I got to go Russell Wilson here. Russell Wilson's been a mainstay in the top 10 fantasy quarterbacks for many years.
Yep.
He seems to get it done. When he needs to run, he runs. When he needs to pass, he passes. They bring in Greg Olsen, some short up talent, if you would. I'm concerned about that foot. He constantly has injuries on, but hey, if he can, bring something to the table, if he can bring something to some of the other tight ends on the roster, such as Will Dillsley or Jacob Hollister, if he can bring some veteran leadership there, that could go a long ways in upcoming years and even as early as this year. You can't argue with the talent he has at wide receiver either. These guys aren't going to blow the doors off anybody. They're not going to be a number one receiver, but collectively between Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, I think these guys are one of the more talented duos in the league. And then you got the running attack that he has, and then they have the 12th man and an excellent defense, usually year in, year out. So for being a solid top 10 quarterback, usually in that 5 to 8 range on my rankings every year, usually on that same ranking at the end of the year, I got to go Russell Wilson for the consistency at number 5.
You done cheated off my sheet again. This is exactly the man I was talking about. I said I can't put him at number 4 above Dak because I think Dak has better receivers. Russell Wilson's gotten some more talent out there. He's gotten some more guys that I'm excited about. He's gotten some things to look to. Like you said, bringing in Greg Olsen kind of in the middle of the night under the radar. I like it. I like the moves that they're making. I really, really do. So, for me, when we look at it, and I think Dak has a little bit more talent out there, and that I would say, I'd lean on a little bit more. But the Seahawks bringing in Greg Olsen, and not only bringing in Greg Olsen, but having more running back help that's going to be coming in there. DK Metcalf, who started the season last year as a rookie, number 4 wide receiver, which is insane to me, quickly rose to number 1. I think he is set to have a potential breakout season as a sleeper because I think people are going to forget to draft him. We're not going to let you, but we'll tell you about it. But some people might forget. And so I think it's important to know DK Metcalf's name and just what this team is doing. So Russell Wilson, listen, he doesn't wow me all the time. I'm more sold on him now than I used to be. But there's something to be said about the uptick and about the talent and about the youth that's coming in. And I think he wants to live up to that contract, and I think he's going to be hungry. So our top 5 is exactly the same. And I will be shutting off this. They say the camera never goes off in the studio. I'm going to have to make sure that I don't stand in front of it anymore when I take notes. All right, Mike, who's number 6 for you, fantasy quarterback rankings this year?
You did that thing with your arm, and I saw this thing up in this area. It looked like a bicep.
Oh, yeah, muscle? That?
Whoa,
Yeah,
guns out. Yeah, absolutely. Jeez, we're going to have to change the name of this show to bodybuilding or something. Jeez.
Muscle milk. Well, we'll call it muscle milk. That's what we'll do. It's all good.
Look, you can say that this quarterback here benefited from the biggest offseason yet so far. And you bring in Nuke Hopkins, you're going to go up a notch or 2 in my rankings, and that's why I picked Kyler Murray at number 6.
Okay.
You already had Larry Fitzgerald. Now, Larry's been looking to leave for quite a few years simply because he feels like he's getting a little long in the tooth. He knows he's not 21 anymore, and he knows what his level of expectation is.
Larry's like caught in the maze in that movie, The Maze Runner, where they can't get out of it. That's where Larry is. He's like, all right, guys, I'm going to stick around here one more year. We're going to build a fort. We're going to make some food. And it's 7 years later, and he's got a beard like Sofka, and he's like, please, can I just go home? Poor Larry. He's going to be 87 years old. Love him, though.
Add in the fact that they've had a decent defense on the uptick there. You add the fact that Kenyon Drake came in out of nowhere and took over the running back position, made it so they could jettison David Johnson. You got Christian Kirk there, Keyshawn Johnson, and Andy Isabella all ready to make leaps and bounds there. So I think he's got the tools around him. I think he's got a coach that believes in him. He believes in that coach and that system, and that's half the battle right there. You put the talent in the mix there, you got a top 10 quarterback in Kyler Murray, number 6 on my quarterback rankings preseason here.
Yeah, so I'm just going to throw my notebook. That's what I'm doing. I'm just going to throw it in the garbage. So
I like where you get your information from, obviously.
Yeah, well, apparently, Jeepers Christmas. Kyler Murray, let's discuss. Let's talk numbers. He was 15th last season, 3,722 passing yards, shall we say. His completion percentage was it was 64.4%. It had him at 15th overall. His passing touchdowns, Kyler Murray's passing touchdowns, where did I write down Kyler Murray? He had 20 last year, so he was tied for 11th with Josh Allen and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Rushing yards, he was second behind Lamar Jackson with 544. and he was third with 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. He just gained DeAndre Hopkins, and he is going to have running back help that can obviously be there for him. David Johnson's not there anymore. I don't think that anybody's going to remember. I mean, the sad thing is, like, was David Johnson even there the last 2 years is the big question. So it's kind of like, what is that thing on Fox, that The Masked Singer? It's almost like you had like a David Johnson mask on and they took it off, and it was, I don't even know who we would say. Who would it be? Jim Gaffigan. I'll say it was comedian Jim Gaffigan. That's who we'll say. So, but David Johnson, he just he was a shell of himself, and I thought it was the offensive line, and then they brought in Kenyon Drake, and that obviously wasn't the truth. So maybe it'll work out for him in Houston. I typically don't like running backs for the Texans because none of them wow me, including Lamar Miller. He would get to 1,000 yards in a season, but I never knew how, because fantasy-wise, week to week, he just didn't do anything that made me want to draft him. But I think Kyler Murray, to me, because of what he has now, because we know that offensive line can help with whoever's back there running the ball, arguably, because this is the second season for Kyler, the second season for Cliff Kingsbury, and because, I feel like it's going to have more of a college-style feel. I think people are going to get really excited. DeAndre Hopkins being there, Christian Kirk, and Larry Fitzgerald. I think ultimately this is going to be a fun season, and I kind of toyed with putting Kyler a little bit higher, but this is where he sits at for me because, Dak's got more experience, and Russell Wilson, the contract that he got was the Seahawks saying that they think he's the best quarterback in the nation. So I think Kyler Murray sitting at number 6 is not too shabby, because once these quarterbacks start to go off the list, if he falls to you, at least you're thinking, okay, he can run, he can pass, and he's going to have an offense that's got a lot of weapons. So I think ultimately it's a good choice at number 6. Number 7, Mike. Wait, hold on. Do you want to read it? Go ahead.
Yeah, hold that pad up again now. What was that?
Yeah.
Look, it's easy for me at this point because I got to go with a guy who, even though most of the NFL is not looking up to this guy, fantasy-wise, he holds value. He holds value because of the way he distributes the ball. He held value, especially in the second half of last year when his team finally figured out a way to win some games. I'm talking about Matty Ice. I'm talking about Matt Ryan. I'm talking about a guy who has, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley to throw the ball to. Now, there's a difference in the backfield this year, bringing in Todd Gurley, who we thought was long in the tooth as well. Thought it was David Johnson Jr. here, whereas it looked like he was off a little bit. Maybe that knee injury is a little bit more. Maybe it's not just load management. Well, Atlanta obviously saw something because they didn't even show any interest in Devonta Freeman. He's still out there. But, I think a lot of guys who are free agents are still out there just because of the symptom of what's been going on in our society with the lockdowns, et cetera.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a rampant uptick real soon here in signing of free agents and so forth once we get closer to camp in July. But if you have a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield like Todd Gurley, you have Hayden Hurst, which is an untapped talent. Believe me, guys, go out and get you some Hayden Hurst in the redraft leagues. You're not going to find him in dynasty leagues because everybody knows about this little secret already. But he's going to be Austin Hooper plus this year, so I'm really excited to see Hayden Hurst. I'm just excited to see Matt Ryan around this team. They played better defense the second half of last year as well. So Matt Ryan's the number 7 quarterback on my preseason rankings.
Oh, hold on. I have something to play. For the first time this morning, Mike and I have not agreed on quarterbacks. Now, do I think that makes us both extremely intelligent? Of course I do. But we're now in a place where Mike has Matt Ryan at number 7, and I do not. The person that I have at number 7 in the NFL, this was a tough choice for me, and I'm still staring because I'm like, do I wanna? But the person that I have at number 7, and this may shock you, but he can run and he can pass, and he had 100 yards rushing on the Jacksonville Jaguars 2 seasons ago when they got in a fight in the end zone that I was toward. This man has a cannon. He comes to you from Wyoming. And he was the starting quarterback. And Eric Dungy almost went there and fought him for the starting quarterback job, and instead he went to Syracuse. So, this man will make the people of upstate New York very proud. He can throw in the snow. He can throw in the sun. There's not a lot of sunshine in Buffalo, so I don't know why I'm talking about it. But he can throw in both. He can run. He led the league in rushing touchdowns with 9, above Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson, and on and on and on and on and on. That man is my number 7 pick because he can run, because he can pass. And I was wowed by his arm, but now I'm wowed by his all-around game. I never thought in a million years I was going to talk about his running ability, but here I am doing it, and shame on me for not talking about it before. My number 7 fantasy quarterback this season, that man they call Josh Allen. That's right, baby. So happy. Not Josh Groban. And not that other guy who went to Arizona, but then he went to that other place, Miami, Mr. Rosen, who's 97 pounds soaking wet. I'm talking about Josh Mother freaking Allen is my number 7. So yes, I'm proud. I'm happy. I'm gonna do all. You know what? I'm not even gonna look. I'm just gonna hit a random. I'm gonna hit a random thing in my sound effect. Uh-oh, in a car crash. So that's not good. That wasn't a good one. There we go. That's the one I wanted. Third time's the charm. We're going with Josh Allen at number 7. If I get him, I'll be okay with it. So, Mike, that is my thought on number 7. Who's your number 8?
Yeah, number 8 is obviously going to be a guy who has the top 2 wide receiver tandem in the league. This may shock somebody because he's fallen off the past couple of years. He's fallen off because of where he was. He wasn't demanded to be the entire team. He was demanded to lead the entire team, and that's what he's going to bring to Tampa Bay. I'm talking about Tom Brady. Tom Brady, who does he have to throw the ball to? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. He has some guys that are tight ends as well. Have you heard of a Rob Gronkowski? He came with him as well. O.J. Howard is still there. Cameron Brate is still there. They got running backs that hopefully can start to make an impact here in Ronald Jones. Keyshawn Vaughn was just drafted. He may take over that position as full-time running back, but I think you're going to see more of a committee approach. I think Tom Brady's going to be able to spread the ball out. I think Ronald Jones is going to be the choice more so in a PPR format to start with at running back. Tom Brady has the brains and he has the ability to get the ball to these playmakers. I don't see how you can rank Tom Brady out of the top 10 this year. Tom Brady's my number 8 quarterback preseason.
Well, it's nice that we took one ranker off to just go right back to copying each other. So I'm with you. I have Mr. Brady as number 8. I almost put him as number 7, but he ended up being number 8 to me. And he is. To me it makes sense. So like you said, he dropped off a little bit, and from fantasy, and I didn't have him as high, but now because he has O.J. Howard, because he has Chris Godwin, because he has Mike Evans, I would imagine, arguably, I said this when he went to the Bucs. I said he arguably has his best receiving core he's ever had in his career, and this is a man who has numerous Super Bowl rings. So I think you got to give it up to Tom Brady. Numbers-wise, last season tied for 7th with 24 passing touchdowns. He had, believe it or not, 3 rushing touchdowns last year. And what else can I tell you about Mr. Tom Brady? He had, let's see here, his completion percentage was not the highest. It was 60.8%. He was number 26 on the list of quarterbacks in the NFL, and he had the 7th most amount of passing yards with 4,057. So Tom Brady is number 8 for the both of us. I agree with you, Mike. I had to put Josh Allen a little bit above him because Josh can do the runny, and Brady does the standy. But every once in a while, he shocks you and he gets some things done on the rushing attack. So I think Tom Brady is reinvigorated in his early 40s because of the fact of his receiving core and just how dangerous they could become. To go from a 4-win team style, that's what we expect, 3-4 wins from the Bucs, 5 wins, to a team that could be vying for the Super Bowl. Only somebody like Tom Brady can do that. Only somebody like Brady could do that. And so that's where we sit. So that's number 8. Who's your number 9, Mr. Sofka?
Well, number 9, I have to go with Drew Brees. Drew Brees is going to tear it up again this year. I know there's a lot of social things going on right now with Drew Brees. I think himself and his team are going to be able to overcome those things against popular belief. I think he still has some of the great receivers. They brought in Emmanuel Sanders now, the opposite Michael Thomas. Traquan Smith, if he can make an impact, if he can take another step, that would be huge. But look for him in the slot. Jared Cook still, Josh Hill, if he can continue to develop. I know it's been a few years, but never underestimate Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is one of the best players in the league overall. If you have one of the best running backs, you have a defense that's on the rise, you have an offense that's on the rise, you have guys out of the backfield in a Kamara that can catch the ball. You have a guy in a Latavius Murray that can give you a quick change of pace and more so run between the tackles.
Yeah.
I like the position Drew Brees is in. Plays indoors. Weather half the year is not a concern. Most of the other half of the year it's not because they play in the NFC South. I like Drew Brees in the top 10 this year as well.
Yeah, and we're right back at it because I got Drew Brees here as well. I think you have to because he tied 2 other guys that I couldn't put at number 9, and those are he tied in touchdowns last season with 27, 5th overall in the NFL. He tied with Carson Wentz and Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy had a good season, obviously ended in the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz, health is an issue to me. So Drew Brees, 27 touchdowns last season. Definitely worth noting. His completion percentage was the best in the league at 74.3%. He doesn't throw passes to anybody down the field. Well, number 1, that's BS. Number 2, your completion percentage is what counts. And 74.3% to lead. He was at 80% at one point last season. And passing yards last season, I want to see where he fell here. He was 26th, actually, 2,979. So his passing yards were down, but his completion percentage was up. So Drew Brees, I just think he makes sense. He's good for 30 touchdowns in a season. Unlike his backup, Jameis Winston, he's not good for 33 interceptions in a season. So I think Drew deserves to be here. I think, if I pick him up here, at this point, if I did things right, he'd be maybe my backup quarterback, depending on if people don't go a run on quarterback. So that would be a really good backup to have. And I think as long as he's in the league, you gotta put him out there. You gotta play him. So hopefully things get better on and off the field. But Drew Brees, you got a ton of talent. Mike mentioned it. My guy Latavius Murray is still there from Onondaga County up here in Syracuse. So happy to have him back with Kamara in the backfield and obviously Traquan Smith, a lot of great stuff that he could bring to the table from UCF. By the way, when Brees set that record, he threw that touchdown pass to Traquan Smith, which is pretty awesome. So excited to see what they can do this year. And like Mike said, they play indoors half the season. So good for them. Good for Brees. I don't think he's a bad choice at number 9. We're going to do our top 10 and then take a fast break. So who's your number 10, Mike?
Well, my number 10 is going to be Josh Allen. You said it all before with the running game that he has, with the ability to move the ball. He now has a genuine number 1 receiver in Stephon Diggs, which is huge.
Yeah.
They had Devin Singletary. What did they do? They ran out and got another running back in Zach Moss. So they're going to continue that 1-2 punch of running back. They play well on the road or home. The defense is usually pretty good in Buffalo. So I like Josh Allen a lot. I like him to round out the top 10.
Yeah, for me, to round out my top 10, because you got Josh Allen, this is a difficult road for me because I like to think in the moment, and so where I sit right now, looking at these numbers, it will shock you the leader in passing yards after Jameis Winston. It's Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Phillip Rivers, who's now a Colts, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Derek Carr, who's in the top 10 in more than one category. Carson Wentz, Pat Mahomes is the top 10 for passing yards last year. But I got to go with the guy that you mentioned, and it's funny because we're going to flip-flop him. But I said Josh Allen a few ago, and now I'm going to say Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan, with having Julio Jones, has that talent. Calvin Ridley needs to step it up this year for sure. But hopefully Todd Gurley will bring more to that offense. Again, they play indoors at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium that I was down at for Alabama FSU. And that was a great. It was an unfortunate game for FSU's quarterback. Great game to go out and see. And there is a lot of truth. And having an Alabama kid on the show last week, Riley Leonard, that literally every sentence ends with "Roll Tide" in Alabama. And there was a guy who stood on the fence of the stadium, and every Alabama person he saw go by he would, as soon as he's roll tide, hey, roll tide, roll some tide, roll tide, roll tide, roll tide, roll tide, roll tide. I would love to see an auction in Alabama because it wouldn't be numbers. It would just be roll tide. And you would never know how much you owed. You what?
Well, they get that from the sports writers in Alabama. They get that because after every sentence they write roll tide. Do you know why they do that? Because they can't spell elephant. Thank you. Thank you. Be here all week.
Elepphant. Elephant.
Very good.
That's right.
Very good.
Yes. So I get to move on to the second portion of our show today, which is fantastic. So I'm going to give it to Matty Ice, and I think he deserves to be in the top 10. But, around 10 or 11 to me. And he made my top 10 because I can't argue Carson Wentz in because I get worried about injury. So that's where I sit when it all comes down to it. Aaron Rodgers didn't make it. Neither did Jimmy Garoppolo. And some of these other names that you're wondering where they're going to end up. We'll talk about it right after this fast break. Giant segue, baby. Winning Fantasy Football is the group to join. It's over there. Look at it. There it is. Winning Fantasy Football. And that looks like a fantastic Carvel ice cream cake. Jay Cartini, get on it. Let's make it. 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. Funny thing is, I literally said that, and Jay Cartini texted me. I'm looking at my phone while this is happening. That's hilarious. So not only is Mike cheating off my paper, but Jay Cartini is reading my brain. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. I will consult doctors to make sure that I'm safe to continue, and we will be back in just a moment here where sports meets life. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We're always having fun here with Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, and we will be back right after this with plenty more. You got our top 10, and we break down the next 10 right after this. Borio's Restaurant, located on 8891 McDonald's Parkway in Cicero, would like to invite you to their Sunday brunch, weekly from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., featuring multiple mouth-watering breakfast and lunch items. We would also like to welcome you to Free Trivia Thursdays at 7 p.m. with weekly prizes. Call 315-699-2249 to reserve your team's table at Borio's Restaurant, located on 8891 McDonald's Parkway, overlooking Oneida Lake.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcall. DT, proud to be hanging out with you inside of the Charney's Menswear and Tuxedo Studios here on 3150 Erie Boulevard East in Syracuse, New York. Much appreciation to Charney's for being our studio partner on 3150 Erie Boulevard East in Syracuse, New York. We are inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly brought to you by the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, and having some fun here, as always, every Wednesday with Mr. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, myself, Dan Tortora of WakeUpCallDT.com, and the both of us from Winning Fantasy Football. Mike, have you heard this song? I don't know. I just feel the need to play it right now, which means Facebook will probably silence this portion. You know, they'll find like 5 seconds and they go, we're going to silence this because we don't think you have the copyright. So Facebook, hear me say this. I do not have the copyright to this song. I'm just a happy person that wants to play happy music. So I'm going to. This belongs to John Legend. It doesn't belong to me. With that being said, there are a ton of people posting videos and music all the time, and nothing happens. So, here's my song, and I just want to play it, because I think it's got a good beat, and Mike was just dancing, so. Have you heard this? So I played, 4 seconds, so I can't get in trouble for it? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows at this point? Nobody does. Facebook's got police, and they're angry, and I don't like it. So it had nothing to do with anything we're about to talk about, but I needed to play the song because I was excited and Mike was dancing and it made me think of things. So with that being said, we've agreed on almost everything, but we did not agree on 2 of them. And you put one at number 7 and I put one at number 10, which is kind of funny because we didn't agree on it, but we still put them in the same flip-flop places. So Mike's number 10 fantasy quarterback is Mr. Josh Allen, and mine was Matty Ice, Mr. Matt Ryan, who Mike had at number 7. Mike, who is number 11 for you, my good sir?
Well, if this guy can stay healthy, finally, he'll do well. He'll finish just outside the top 10 in my preseason rankings. Talking about Carson Wentz of Philadelphia. What did they do? They went out and got another receiver. Now, it was questionable who they took and when they took him in Jalen Reagor, but I think that could work out. He could be just the guy that they're looking for, so maybe it will work out. You know who I think they're really going to look for? Miles Sanders this year. I look for him to have a huge year. I look for him to build on what he did last year. If Carson Wentz can stay healthy, Philadelphia's defense is, improved again. Don't forget Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, who I think is a little bit long in the tooth as well. Marquise Goodwin, who is super fast. Couldn't get on the field anymore in San Fran. Maybe he can get on the field in Philadelphia. And don't forget, they have 2 of the best tight ends in the league there in Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. So I think that Carson Wentz, if he can stay healthy, he can be near the top 10. Right now, he's number 11 on my preseason quarterback rankings.
Yeah, I have to, I'm going to disagree. I'm actually going to disagree on this one. Look at that. So, number 11 for me, I like Carson Wentz a lot. And this is difficult. But the only person that I can imagine, and I brought it up before, they're close in passing yards. Carson Wentz had 4,039 last year. Jimmy Garoppolo, 3,978. When we go to other pieces of this, passing touchdowns, they had the same amount with 27 apiece, as I mentioned, because Drew Brees was tied with them as well. And Jimmy Garoppolo was 4th in the nation in completion percentage with 69.1. Carson Wentz was 20th with 63.9. So I'm going to give it to Jimmy Garoppolo. I would like to hope that things are going to keep trending up for him, hopefully, as he continues moving on. I kept saying I want to see what he looks like one full season as a starting quarterback outside of the Patriots to see if he's like every other quarterback that backed up Tom Brady, or if he actually is, his own quarterback and he can make it happen. And he went to the Super Bowl, and he did it with receivers that, besides Deebo Samuel and what he was able to do in the Super Bowl itself to kind of look Tyreek Hill-esque, so to speak, and kind of use the best weapon against them. Outside of that, people couldn't really household name these guys, and he still got them to the Super Bowl. So I really do like it. I like Carson Wentz. I love his talent. I just, Philadelphia has been kind of somewhat of a dumpster fire sometimes, and it's been a little bit difficult for me to. We know how I feel this year, okay? The Philadelphia Monday night and Sunday night games, we know that I'm like, boring. But, and Rob's going to kill me for saying that. I'm sorry, Drum. But I can't put Carson Wentz here, and Jimmy was tied with him in passing touchdowns. I think he edges him out just a little bit. Who's your number 12, Mr. Sofka?
Well, number 12 is going to be a guy that should be a little bit higher, but they didn't draft a wide receiver in one of the biggest wide receiver depth classes. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Now, that's fine. If you think you're good at what you've got, if you're better than the thoughts of 32 other NFL GMs, if you're better than millions of fantasy football players throughout the country who thought you should have taken wide receiver and you brought in Devin Funchess, good luck to you this year, Packer fan. You know, Alan Lazard is well liked by Aaron Rodgers, and it's well documented, so maybe he takes another step this year. You do have Devontae Adams, which in my opinion is one of the top 5, if not top 3 wide receivers for fantasy.
Yeah.
They drafted another tight end. Jay Sternberger hasn't done much yet. Mercedes Lewis hasn't done much while he's been there. Aaron Jones has toted the rock while Jamal Williams is filled in. They bring in A.J. Dillon. They still have one of the better offensive lines. The defense is on the rise. Aaron Rodgers is a playmaker. Aaron Rodgers is like a guy like, I don't care. I don't care. You do what you're going to do. I don't care. And you know why he's got to have that attitude? Because he can't control everything. He can't control the fact that the head coach is a lot younger than him and already probably moving on. He's already drafting guys for his future NFL team. He's already drafted a guy at quarterback in Jordan Love who he wants to see take over in a couple of years. And Aaron Rodgers is like, I don't care. I'm just going to go out and do what I do. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to bring me a top 12 performance. Just makes it under the Mendoza line there for QB1s. Most leagues are 12-team leagues. So he's number 12 on my ranking this year. And I think he's capable. And I think he's got some weapons where he's able to improve on that number.
Yeah.
But right now he's number 12, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, you know, I think Aaron Rodgers, it makes sense he wears number 12, and so we're going to agree on this one and put him back there. I think he has to be number 12. Jimmy G, it was hard for me to put him above Aaron Rodgers. It was difficult to do this, but let's remember, Jimmy G is also responsible for an offense that spanked the Packers twice last season, once in the regular season, once in the playoffs, both in San Fran, mind you, but took it to him and took it to Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron, you know, he has that big game capability. He's got Devontae Adams, who I think is one of the top 5 definitely out there. He could be a top 2 arguably at certain points, a wide receiver. Alan Lazard, if he steps it up. Don't know why they didn't draft a wide receiver. They didn't have a lot of picks this year. Love, and I hope that Aaron Rodgers utilizes this guy, but I'm so excited that they drafted a running back that I've known so well out of Boston College, and you know, so for me, I think there's a lot to be said about what this team can do, and I think that there's a lot of talent. You know, and now having A.J. Dillon there picked, I think he was picked 62 overall. He was in the second round. Having A.J. Dillon to join in the fun with this, they finally have a running back that I would actually draft. And so I think there's a lot of good that can come from this. I hope that I hope this offense works. I hope that everything works. I hope that the quarterback or the coach remembers he's got to think about the now. I know he's thinking about the later, but you got to think about the now right now. And you got one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and I think that he could go off at any given second. He's a guy who last year I literally said to myself, it's Monday Night Football, I'm up by 53, as long as he doesn't score 60, I'll win. And this mother you-know-whatter had like 61 points. So Aaron Rodgers is always the quarterback you don't want to go up against, which is why I think he is definitely draftable. And at number 12, you know, might sound like an understatement, but I still love the guy, so I'd go with Aaron Rodgers here. Number 13, lucky 13. That's my grandpa's number. Who are you going with, Mike?
Yeah, I like this quarterback out of Georgia. He's pretty much a steady, even guy most of the time. No matter what's around him, no matter who's running the ball around him, no matter the fact that they have a New England-esque look about them now thanks to their new head coach. I say new, relatively new. Look, Matt Stafford gets it done. He's pretty much a guy you can depend on. He's just outside the top 12 here, though. Kerryon Johnson, is he going to be able to stay healthy? Well, what did they do? They go out and get DeAndre Swift, who I think is going to share the load with Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah.
Kenny Golladay proved to be one of the top receivers on that team, if not the top receiver. Unseating of Marvin Jones. They bring in a Danny Amendola. Geronimo Allison, a forgotten name from the Packers. Not only did the Packers not draft a wide receiver, but they sent one off somewhere. And then the name that I want you to write down, especially in Dynasty, this wide receiver is going to skyrocket here in this season and next season. Quintez Cephas. Quintez Cephas, that's right. This is a name that as long as he can get himself on the field, maybe something in the slot, this guy's going to make a name for himself real soon. TJ Hawkinson, you need to show up, my man. You were drafted to be that guy.
Yeah.
You were drafted to be that top tight end in the league. Okay, we got him. We can forget about that position. It's solidified. Let's look at these other positions here. Let's look at wide receiver because we have to have a lot of those. We only need one or two real good tight ends. TJ Hawkinson, you need to show up to prove me right that Matt Stafford is the number 13 quarterback on the preseason rankings.
Yeah, I mean, Hawkinson definitely has to step his game up and show us what he's got at this point. Matt Stafford, obviously talented. There are times where people thought top tier, top five, that we could put him high up there. And obviously the Detroit Lions and the offense, the way things have gone, has kind of kept that from happening, which is really sad. But the hope is that, things will get better for them and get better for their offense as they go forward. Now that they have that help at running back, you would imagine that things can get better. You got help at running back, you got help at tight end, you got a defensive-minded coach who went out and got running backs and tight ends to help. I mean, this is what they do, and so it should work. And hopefully, Matt Stafford will be able to have to the victor goes the spoils. Hopefully, he'll have the positives that will come from this and be able to get back to Matt Stafford ways. I'm going to go with Carson Wentz here at number 13. I know Mike went with him just a little bit earlier here at number 11, but I'm going to go with Wentz. I think, having him outside of the top 10 has to do with injury, but putting him inside of my top 13 has to do with his talent and his ability. So I think that he's definitely deserving to being there. I think Philadelphia, they obviously have some talent. He's shown that he can do it with pretty much anybody. Nelson Aguilar is not there anymore. That never worked out, which was sad because as a rookie, I thought he would have a better season. But Carson Wentz out of North Dakota, showing that anybody from anywhere can do it. If you believe in yourself, you believe in your talents, you got your God-given abilities, and you work your butt off, you can make it. And so he is a true beacon of hope for anybody in any nook and cranny of the world to be successful and live their dreams. I love his story. I love what he does. If he was healthy, he would be higher, but I hope that he can stay healthy and do some great things, and he's going to be my number 13. So, Mike, I'm going to disappear for a second. I'm going to let you do your number 14, and I'll be back momentarily.
Well, number 14 is from a team that a lot of people hate. I know a lot of Baltimore Raven fans hate this guy, and hate's a strong word, but that's kind of the rivalry between the Steelers and the Ravens. Of course, I'm talking about Ben Roethlisberger. Now, Pittsburgh has a knack for always finding one of the top undiscovered wide receivers. They did it when Antonio Brown out of Central Michigan, Western Michigan, one of them Michigans that's not the big ones. Look, they have a way, and I'm going to name a few other guys they did the same thing with. They did the same thing with Juju Smith-Schuster, who's their number one now, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, and they're getting ready to do it again with a Chase Claypool. Finished very high on the Adjusted Explosive Index. You can get a free copy of that, of course, by just heading over to see me at Hall of Fame Fantasy Football. Drop me a note at my email, halloffamefantasysports.com, Mike at halloffamefantasysports.com. You'll get your very own copy, the Adjusted Explosive Index, which proves to be a great indicator as to where rookie tight ends are going to land in the next 3 to 5 years. So look for the name Chase Claypool. They still have a solid running game with the James Conner, Jalen Samuels, Benny Snell. What do? They bring in a boomer bust player in Anthony McFarland, who I think is going to be a great asset to them should he be able to make an impact right away. Ben Roethlisberger is a solid quarterback. I like the tools he has to work around him. I know he's old. I know he looks like, what was that name of that show? And nobody here watching, because everybody watching is probably not older than me. I'm older than dirt. And I remember Grizzly Adams, the guy with the big beard. Well, Ben went and got that shaved down a little bit. Ben's getting ready for the serious side of football here. Look for Ben Roethlisberger, number 14 on the quarterback rankings this year.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you and keep my Pennsylvanians together here. I'm going to have Carson Wentz on one side, of the state with Philly and Ben Roethlisberger on the other side in Pittsburgh, and we know that they have to stay. It's literally like having kids. You gotta put the boys on opposite sides of the room, or they're gonna kill each other. Because we know how Philly and Pittsburgh feel about one another. So Ben Roethlisberger, number 14, makes sense. Might shock you because you look at all the numbers from last season. You're like, well, where the hell is Ben? Ben didn't play. So Mason Rudolph was on here, and if you wanna know just for giggles, if you want to know where Mason Rudolph's at and everything, Mr. Mason Rudolph, let's see here.
Don't forget Duck Hodges. Don't forget
Devlin Hodges. Mason Rudolph was 31st in passing yards. He had under 2,000. And besides that, do I have any other Mason Rudolph sightings? Yes, he had 13 passing touchdowns, which had him last year at 16th in the NFL, because there's a bunch of ties, obviously, at different parts of it. So, with that being said, Ben Roethlisberger is back. Juju, we were wondering, is he going to be back? Is he not going to be back? Seems like he is. James Conner is extremely talented. They got help in the backfield. They have a terrific offensive line. So, I think Big Ben's going to do well, and his swan song is going to be pretty. So, I like it. Sing it out, Big Ben. And I love the gif that I put up of him, which is simply him going, oh. So, you know, he's like, oh, you put me there? Yeah, I did. 14th, bro. And people are going to forget about you, and they're going to think you're washed up, and they're going to think you're old. But guess what? You're not, and you still got talent, and you still got some game to play, and you got way too much on the team to not be effective there in the AFC North. But guess what, Big Ben? While you were out, Lamar Jackson was out there just wreaking some havoc. So maybe, and I'm going to throw this out there because I use this whenever I can, thanks to Shakespeare. In the words of the Raven and Lamar Jackson, who is a Raven, he looks at the Steelers and he says, quoth the Raven, nevermore. That's right. They're going to stay at top place. The Ravens might take this swimmingly this year. But hopefully Big Ben will do some good things. And I learned something in high school because I remembered that line. Mike, who's number 15 on the list for fantasy quarterbacks?
Yeah, this is a guy who may surprise people because of where I have him on the ranking. I consider him to be almost a Mendoza-line quarterback. What I mean by that is usually that's the mark Andy Dalton took. That's the mid-level part. That's 15 or so. And that is where we're at. We're at 15. So I'm going to put Jared Goff at 15. He's still got weapons to throw the ball to.
Yeah.
They jettison their running back, but they bring in Cam Akers, who I think is going to shock the NFL world this year. I think he's one of the most talented running backs in the draft, even though he comes from Florida State. Hey, you play football at Florida State, you're a great player no matter what.
That's coming from a Gator. That's coming from a Gator.
No, it is what it is. We play against them. Do you know why they have such talented players? Because they have to play the Gators every year, and they know they better step up and have good players. It's just a system of where you're at as a team, and I think Cam Akers is an NFL-ready running back, can catch the ball out of the backfield. You combine that with Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Josh Reynolds, and write this name down, dynasty players. Van Jefferson, out of Florida, one of the best route runners in the league. Van Jefferson, look for him to usurp Josh Reynolds in the slot right away, and maybe potentially, due to injury, take over one of those outside positions. Higbee and Everett have been able to split up that tight end situation nicely, so there's no harm, no foul there. I like Jared Goff. He's got a decent offensive line. He's got a decent defense. Half the games are played indoors. Jared Goff, number 15.
Wasn't their offensive line a couple years ago in the Super Bowl? Weren't they voted to be the best in the nation? Not true. Not even close to being true. Who voted in that? It's like when people were mad at American Idol and they voted Sanjaya to make it to the top 5 because they just wanted to see it happen. And there was that one radio host who said that he was going to pitch a tent on the top of the building and he wasn't going to leave until somebody got rid of Sanjaya. And, you know, I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I understand why he did it. You know what I mean? I get it. So I'm going to put Jared Goff here, too. I'm going to agree with you, Mike, on this one. The reason being is, you know, I thought about, I know you already have Matt Stafford, and I thought about Matty Stafford here, but Jared Goff actually was third in the nation last year in passing yards with 4,638, which is probably shocking to a lot of people. He had, number 1 was Jameis Winston, number 2, Dak Prescott, like I said, and then Jared Goff. The leaders in passing yards last year just don't make logical sense. The one that really kind of hits you is Rivers was number 4, but the one that probably makes the most sense is Matt Ryan was number 5 because he's got Julio Jones, and then Russell Wilson because he always finds a way to get it done. But Jared Goff, he doesn't have Todd Gurley anymore, but he has Cam Akers, still has Darrell Henderson from Memphis, who I hope they could figure out and make a third down back potentially. And it would be nice to see. We know that they have talent at their wide receiver position, and they have some good notes on their defense. So I would like to say Jared Goff is going to do something of merit this year, something positive. He's got to. He's getting paid those big bucks. He is a former number 1 pick, mind you, above Carson Wentz, but Carson Wentz goes above him to me in the rankings at number 13. So I will agree with you, Micah, that at number 15 that we got to put Jared Goff here. I'm going to put it on yardage, and I do think he's talented. I just am still waiting for him to wow me, essentially. Who's your number 16 fantasy quarterback?
Well, again, this is going to shock a lot of people here, but it's mainly because of the talent around him. His team went out and drafted a bunch of offensive linemen this year. He's got probably one of the most explosive and impact players at running back in the game. And last year, he had a few young receivers take a step up toward the end of the year. I'm talking about, drum roll, please.
Wait, hold on. No, hold on. No, you want a drum roll, Mike. You know that we make it happen. Daniel Jones. We're friends on the Facebook, Mike. We're friends on the Facebook here. Me and Daniel Jones.
Here's the deal. Throw the ball. Make it a short 1-yard pass, a short 10-yard pass, whatever. Get it in Saquon Barkley's hands. That's all you have to do to be successful in New York.
Yeah.
But they had a few guys step up a little bit. Sterling Shepard, he's going to step up. He better step up. He's slotted as the number 1. Him and Golden Tate, number 1A, if you would. Darius Slayton showed me a lot last year. I thought he stepped up well toward the end of the year. And I like Evan Ingram, of course, a lot. If he can stay healthy this year, I think the Giants are on the upswing. I think they got an improved defense. I think they got an improved offensive line. It's going to take some time to mature, but by year's end, I think you're going to be able to look back and say that Daniel Jones is indeed the number 16 quarterback on my rankings here.
Hey, you're looking at Daniel Jones here. I am not going to go Daniel Jones on this one. I'm not going to knock you for it. I obviously like his coach and the guru that he is. Just Riley Leonard, who I brought up, is going to Duke from the state of Alabama, and obviously he taught Peyton Manning, who won multiple Super Bowls, and taught Eli Manning, who won multiple Super Bowls, and now David Cutcliffe, who I'm talking about, that head coach of the Duke's football team for the Blue Devils, he now has 2 quarterbacks that have gone off to the Giants to be starters in Eli Manning and Daniel Jones, which is kind of interesting here, 2 that he's taught. And so my number 16 quarterback is going to go to one that Mike has already mentioned, and that is Mr. Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, on talent alone, I just think he's more talented than Daniel Jones, and obviously I didn't have him as high because it's kind of been a letdown in Detroit lately. I'm sorry, Johnny. I know my resident Detroit fan's very sad, but Matt Stafford, to me, I think he has so much talent. They brought in some guys. I think they have more than enough running back help to get the job done, and I'm really just hoping that at this point they do, because this has been frustrating. And I'm sure it's been extremely frustrating to Matt Stafford, who looked at this and probably thought he'd be in the playoffs a few times, probably thought he would have an opportunity at vying for something, and it's just never worked out in Detroit. So hopefully things will get better, and hopefully he will have more opportunity to make it happen here. But I got to go, and I'm going to use a gif of him dancing because I just feel the need. But Matt Stafford, number 16 for me on the list. Talent puts him in the top 20. And obviously he has Kenny Galladay and some other great guys out there to have opportunities for. You mentioned TJ Hawkinson, and I think that his backfield should be stocked full of at least 2, if not 3 running backs that can help him out. Now it's just about getting the job done, which is why I put him at number 16. Who is your 17th, Mr. Sofka?
Yeah, 17 is a guy that, some people wrote off. A lot of people wrote off as a mistake. How can you take a wide receiver in college in the SEC and make him your quarterback and ride with that hand and not win consistently, not get your coach to the next level, but get your coach fired? This is a guy who everybody thought, no way. I'm talking about Ryan Tannehill. What do?
Yeah.
They send him to Tennessee, and what happens? Not happy with Mariota's performance. Mariota goes down. Here comes the boy, Ryan Tannehill, and he gets it done. He takes Tennessee almost all the way. Tennessee, a very solid football team, very well coached football team. Another branch of that New England Belichick coaching tree. Look, if you got guys like a Derrick Henry, where all you got to do is hand him the ball and watch as one of the best defenses in the league in Jacksonville can't tackle this guy, and he runs 2 100-yard runs nearly in 2 games. It looked like a replay. I thought they were showing a flashback from the year before, and here he goes, 96 yards, 94 yards, running people over, chucking players, stiff-arming players, just rolling down the field. Now they bring in a Darrington Evans to take over the Dion Lewis role. Of course, I got A.J. Brown, who burst on the scene. Adam Humphries, you got to show me something. They brought you in to run out of that, to catch balls out of that slot position. You haven't shown that to me yet. Corey Davis, you're still a disappointment. You were supposed to be a number 1. You're lucky to be a number 3 here. Johnny Smith, it's time, my friend. It's time. The rest of the team is leaving you behind. I know they went out and they got another tight end. Get this tight end's name. Mike Cole. Not Michael. Mike Cole. M-I-C-O-L-E. Mike Cole. Look for that name in the near future. Not right away in the near future. I like Ryan Tannehill to maintain that mid-range quarterback position. He's not going to make mistakes, so if you get penalized for interceptions, there's probably not a worry there. And watch him go out and throw 31 or 32 and break Jameis's record. Now that I say that, the bottom line is if you're looking for a guy as a backup, if you're looking for a guy that can step in should your quarterback get hurt, Ryan Tannehill's number 17 on my rankings. He's well worth the draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, they paid this man, and they did a tester like they're doing with Phillip Rivers this year with Indianapolis, same division, too, of the AFC South. It was a tester last year to see if Tannehill was going to be worth spending the money on. They decided that he is, and they're paying him a hefty contract. Last year, he was 28th in the league with 2,742 yards. His completion percentage, though, was 3rd highest behind Drew Brees and Derek Carr. 70.3%, just 0.1% behind Derek Carr. And his passing touchdowns, Ryan Tannehill, where'd I have him? He was tied for number 9 with 22 passing touchdowns last season. So that's where he sits. There's another guy that's sitting on the list that I kind of go back and forth about, and I'm sitting here going, why have we not talked about him yet? But I'm going to agree with you on this one and probably go number 18 on this next guy. And I'm not going to mention him at the moment because I want to see if it's right. But, I want to see if you have the same thing. But I'm very surprised, based on his numbers last year, that we're not mentioning him yet. But I do think he gets forgotten at times. Ryan Tannehill is going to be my number 17 as well. I think that the sky's looking up for the man. I hope he stays healthy. I hope he stays well. I think there's a lot of good. But I will say that the next person that I will name, his numbers are better in certain situations. He's close to Tannehill. I think he's more proven himself recently than Tannehill, but he lost one of his main targets. So I will discuss that. Ryan Tannehill has a lot of weapons, though. Ryan Tannehill's got a lot of young weapons that need to step it up. And Derrick Henry is in a contract year again because of the franchise tag. So hopefully he'll play it out. And the Titans are just good at drafting defense, and Mike Vrabel is just a great coach. So I think he's done a fantastic job with Tennessee, especially against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I don't like to admit, but it happens. Jacksonville only beats them on Thursdays. So what is it? They say in the movie Mean Girls, on Wednesdays we wear pink. And Jacksonville says on Thursdays we beat the Titans. That's all it is. Just on Thursdays. Look at the research. Go back and read my story on wakeupcalldt.com in the articles. Click on Jacksonville Jaguars and you'll learn something today, hopefully. And Ryan Tannehill's got to be number 17 for me. There's 2 guys I could have put here, and I was really thinking about it, but I'm pretty confident that my number 18 is going to stay the way that it is. Even though I think 3 people could have taken this spot. Mike, who do you have for number 18?
Yeah, number 18 is going to shock a lot of people, especially because I don't generally do this. I don't generally give rookie quarterbacks that much clout. I usually don't give them that much room. I have no choice here. This guy played for LSU. LSU's in the SEC. This guy won the Heisman. This guy won a national championship. This guy played with NFL talented players on the roster. They had a unknown, I don't know what it was, 16, 17 guys go in the draft, something like that, something crazy. The SEC had the most players in the draft, so he's played against NFL style and NFL speed players. Not quite. It's more like a 1 and a 1A situation when you go NFL to SEC, but it's as close as you can get, and he excelled. You take into consideration he's got the veteran leadership on the outside. A.J. Green's supposed to be finally healthy. Still got Tyler Boyd. What do? They bring in a guy from another great team, this time in the ACC, and T. Higgins. That's going to round out nicely. Drew Sample, time to step up. C.J. Uzomah, keep doing what you're doing. I don't think you're capable of playing much better, but they don't need you to. They just need you to be there when they need them. And, of course, Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's a heck of a running back there, and Giovanni Bernard for the change of pace. And I like the approach that the coaching staff is taking with Joe Burrow. They're going, look, we're going to make it so you can succeed right away. So here's what we're going to do, okay? Hey, head coach Zach Taylor, offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, they said, look, we're going to take some of the things. Give us the 10 plays you like the best at LSU.
Yeah.
We're going to incorporate those things. You're going to have to learn our system, but we're going to make this a little bit more about you and 10 plays that are your favorite plays. This way it's more adaptable for you. We're not asking all 32 players to adapt to you, but for 10 plays, you're going to have to adapt to the rest of the playbook, and that's fine. Obviously, a smart player, son of a football coach, these guys usually do well because they understand the bigger picture. They understand the impact that they have. They touch the ball virtually every offensive play. They're the decision maker. They're the coach's annex. They're the coach's right arm on the field. And I think Joe Burrow's not going to have any problem. The moment's not going to be too big. He's going to be able to make an impact as a leader right away. I like Joe Burrow as a number 18 quarterback on my ranking.
You know, there's somewhere where I'm going to have to put Burrow, and that's a tough thing to do. I mean, he's a number 1 pick. He's a rookie. And you'd like to think that the Bengals got to trend up from here, but it's a tough deal to make. Now, I do want to make note before I say who my number 18 is. I want to make note of the fact that the NFC West straight up killed it in our rankings. That's the Seahawks, the Niners, the Rams, and the Cardinals. Another division that did very well was the NFC South, except for one team where we've yet to mention a quarterback. The divisions that aren't doing well, the AFC West, which has one, the AFC East at this time, which has one, and and then the NFC East, we finally started to get there, but the NFC West and the NFC South lead our rankings. The AFC East and the AFC West are at the bottom of our rankings as it currently stands. And Mike just named off the third person from the AFC North, but I am going to go to somebody who I was speaking about before here. I'm surprised based on the numbers that we haven't mentioned him sooner. He did lose Stephon Diggs, but Kirk Cousins, by the numbers, is a talented quarterback. We look at what he had. He was 16th in the nation with 3,603 passing yards this past season. Touchdown-wise, Kirk Cousins had 26, which tied him with Deshaun Watson, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Matt Ryan. We look at his numbers as far as completion percentage, and Kirk Cousins on the completion percentage road was not as high. I want to make sure I'm not missing him here in my beautiful note-taking, but no, he actually wasn't that high in completion percentage, which could be an issue moving forward. And beyond that, we look at Kirk Cousins. Like I said, passing touchdowns is pretty good. So I think we got to put him there. He's still got Adam Thielen. He still has talent. He still has Dalvin Cook. He's still playing indoors for half the season. I think Kirk Cousins is another guy that has worked to earn that contract, and I think he's done a pretty good job of it up to this point. So I'm going to have to put him in my rankings here in the top 20. I think he's got to be somewhere in the top 20 for me. And so I'm going to give that to him. You know, he's had some late game heroics in some moments. So he's going to be number 18 for me. But I wanted to squeak him into the top 20. I don't know exactly how comfortable I would feel in drafting him, you know, as somebody to lean on. But as a backup, he's not too shabby, and I think that he could put the numbers together. So I think it's surprising to have him at 18. but the guys that we have ahead of him, I think, are deserving to be there. So, with that being said, Mike, who's number 19 for you?
Yeah, number 19 is somebody we briefly mentioned before, and it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo should be a little bit higher on this list, but he doesn't need to be. They've got a great defense in San Fran. They have a great running back by committee situation. Now, Jerick McKinnon was hurt last year, but you take into consideration when any one of these guys can explode, any one of these guys is a threat to take it to the house on any given play, and any one of these guys they're happy to have on the field. I'm talking about Raheem Mostert. I'm talking about Kevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, and Jeff Wilson more so in return situations and gadget plays. But these are guys that they're going to be able to lean on. They drafted Brandon Ayuk, who's going to take over as the number one receiver by the end of the year. Deebo Samuel, Kendrick Bourne. Of course, they sent away Marquise Goodwin, Jalen Hurd, Dante Pettis. Richie James Jr. is normally in a return game as well, but they have one of the best tight ends in football. And when I say one of the best, I don't mean like top 5, top 10. I mean one of the top 2. Travis Kelce or George Kittle, you can flip 1A, 1B, or 1 and 1A, whatever you want to say there. Look, George Kittle is a man amongst boys at the tight end position. They have excellent defense, excellent running game. How can you not say that the 49ers are going to help Garoppolo stay up there in the rankings? And I say stay up there because I don't think he's proven to be everything he can be yet. I got him number 19 on the rankings so far.
Well, you said, how could you not say? And I did say it. I said it a while ago, Mr. Sofka. I had him up there. So Mike's got Jimmy Garoppolo at number 19 on our board, and I had Jimmy Garoppolo back at number 11. So as we go to number 19 for me, to almost round out our top 20 here of fantasy quarterbacks as we give you our 2020-2021 fantasy quarterback rankings, unveiling them today. You can use these today, tomorrow, and the next day, all the way through your season, all the way through your draft. We're giving them to you now in June. You could use them June, July, August, and September, whenever your draft is going to be. So we are setting you up to utilize these and to have some fun with them. So make sure that you watch this video, and on wakeupcalldt.com on the fantasy football tab, as well as the fantasy football broadcast tab, it'll bring you straight to this video, and it'll be archived here, and it'll be on Facebook at wakeupcalldt, so you can't miss it. But they'll be embedded for you to watch and to listen to on draft day as well. You can put the buds in, and even though it's a video, you can listen into us and hear what we have to say during your draft as well, and then we can be right there in your pocket. So for me, for number 19, I am going to have to go with, and again, I'm at a point right now where I'm looking at a bunch of names and I'm saying to myself, I feel like this guy should maybe be higher. I feel like that guy should maybe be higher. But this is the moment where I think he's got to squeak in my top 20, and he just squeaked into Mike's, and that's Joe Burrow. So I'm going to put Joe Burrow here in my top 20 at number 19. Obviously, we don't know what he's going to do in the NFL, but he's coming from LSU. The SEC's ability to translate into the NFL, it makes a lot of sense because it's essentially the NFL's farm system in a lot of ways is this SEC. So I like Joe Burrow. I like what he could do. I'm excited. I'm not a Bengals fan, and yet I found myself feeling like I needed to essentially buy a Joe Burrow jersey because that's how excited I am about this. The GIF I'm putting up is really cool. He's putting on the LSU helmet, and it turns into a Cincinnati Bengal helmet. So I'm excited to see this with Joe Burrow. Again, I'm not a Cincinnati fan. My buddy Johnny Fordyce is. He's been on the show before. He already bought his jersey, so I'm psyched for him. But he's going to love me on Sundays because as long as they're not playing a team, not playing my Jaguars or a team that I'm going for that week, I mean, I'm going to be, I don't know, for whatever reason, I trust my gut, and I got that feel good about Joe Burrow. So I'm going to be a fan of Burrow, and I'm going to love watching him on Sundays. So I got to put him at number 19. I know he doesn't have any stats from the NFL last season, but I think that, obviously of any rookie quarterback, he's getting the job from day zero. Andy Dalton has been jettisoned to the Cowboys. So I'm excited to see what Burrow can do. I would love to have him as a backup quarterback, and having an LSU player as my backup quarterback, not too shabby. So you get him at number 19, that's going to be a good place for you. Mike, we're going to take our final step aside here in just a moment, and then we're going to have to crank it into high gear as our Fantasy Football Power Hour has stretched beyond as it always does. So let's go to number 20 for you before we take a fast break. Who's number 20?
Number 20 is easy for me. Kirk Cousins. He's the guy that you can count on to get you some points on a bye week. He's the guy that can step in and not miss a beat, even though he's got some challenges going into the season. Even though they got rid of Stephon Diggs. You know what? Justin Jefferson comes in. He's going to step in right away. One of the best receivers in the draft. Now you say, well, Dalvin Cook's in the news lately. He's going to hold out. The collective bargaining agreement doesn't allow for that sort of thing. You know, the players missed it on this one. You're not going to be able to hold out and have an impact and demand a contract. So hold out all you want. You know what I would do if I was Minnesota? I'd go out and sign Devonta Freeman. They still have some in-house guys, though. Alexander Madison, Mike Boone, and Amir Abdullah. I know Amir Abdullah's seen better days. Mike Boone's yet to really prove himself, but I've seen bits and pieces. And the same thing with Alexander Madison. I've seen enough to know if this guy can stay on the field, these guys can have impacts. Kyle Rudolph has been up and down in recent years.
Yeah.
Was dismayed when they took Irv Smith Jr. from Alabama, but they're going to make that 1-2 punch like New England tried to do a few years back at the tight end position. I like the talent around them. I like the fact they play indoors most of the year, and I like the defense as well in Minnesota. So number 20 is Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, you know, and I just had Kirk a couple picks ago. So my number 20, he's just going to squeak into my number 20, and I know some people might agree with this, might disagree with it, but at the end of the day, it's my pick. So there. And this man bailed my butt out last year, and I know he was gonna be out there. Some people tried to pick him up to piss me off, but I was able to get him on, I believe, 2 of my leagues, and that is somebody who has handed the keys down in the Sunshine State, and now he has more talent at wide receiver, and they went and got some. They got some talent in the draft. And Chris Conley, I think, is definitely going to step up and be one of those guys that they can lean on. He's stepping up in the community right now and doing some good things in the Black Lives Matter movement as the Jaguars have backed that. I want to thank Chris Conley, who I think is a leader in that locker room that I would hope to see emerge this year, because of all the interviews I've done with the thousands of people that I've spoken to, he is an interview where I literally stopped and I said, this man speaking at a podium, like, I would listen to his speech at a podium. I don't care what he taught. Like, to me, I just remember standing at his locker, just him and I, thinking, this guy should be the leader of this team. You know, him and Gardner Minshew should do it. And Gardner Minshew is going to be my number 20. And he makes it because I just feel that, you know, to me, he's got the talent, he's got the ability, he's got the moxie, he's got the leadership. Now he's got, you know, some help there, as we have seen not only Jay Gruden join, but Ben McAdoo. You got guys that are going to help you on the offensive side. Ben McAdoo is going to help you as your quarterback coach. Jay Gruden's going to help you in your offense. And Doug Marone's still there as your head coach. And I'm just, I'm a big fan of Gardner Minshew. I'm a big fan of the stash. I have a hat of his stash and his bandana on, and the GIF, obviously, of him turning with that mighty stash. So he makes top 20 for me because we know that he has led opportunities for game-winning drives at the end. We know that he has done great things. He's had heroics. He's believed in himself. When the team was losing with like 2 weeks to go, the team was rallying around him, and he was talking about how they never say die. So I think his leadership, his excitement, his, like I said, his moxie, his determination, his will, his perseverance, everything that he has, on top of the fact that his numbers bailed me out a couple times last season, I'm putting Gardner Minshew in my top 20. So with that being said, Mike and I will take a quick step aside, and we're gonna go rapid, quick buzzer on the rest of these as we go forward here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So stay tuned right here to this fast break here for some great partners here in our community. And in the meantime, join our Winning Fantasy Football page on Facebook. That is Winning Fantasy Football. Join our page today right here on the Facebook, where I am friends with the Daniel Jones. We will be back right after this fast break. Charney's Men's Clothing is your one-stop shop for your men's dress up and dress down wear. Located on 3150 Erie Boulevard East in Syracuse, Charney's Men's Clothing is proud to be your trusted name for decades in suits, sport coats, tuxedos, and all accessories. Charney's Men's Clothing also provides sports and leisure-themed casual wear for the everyday man. Stop in and see our welcome and friendly staff on 3150 Erie Boulevard East in Syracuse. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. From their homemade breads to their homemade baked goods and their brick oven pizzas, their sandwiches that are named after the families, over 30 families that helped to settle the town of Pulaski. Just a beautiful, beautiful ode to the history of Pulaski. And the taste buds are just, they're all over the place. The food is incredible. Sometimes you go to a place and you say, oh, well, they have stuff that's really, really good for breakfast, or stuff that's really good for lunch, or I love their desserts, or I love their sandwiches. They have everything. And Rebecca Alford, she is the queen of the kitchen, and she is so talented at so many different things that you're going to love her dressing, and you're going to love the, M&M cookie. And then you're going to go in there and love the bee sting pizza. And then you're going to make your own sandwich and love that too. So there's so many great things, and I am hungry every time I talk about it. They have an easy downloadable app on the Google Play and Apple App Store. And so just search Millhouse Market, download it. The entire menu is there. You order it, contactless pay on the app itself, and then you pick it up in the drive-up window, which makes it quick and easy for all of us. And so I want to thank the Millhouse Market for all they do and for being worth the drive every time on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. With that being said, we're back here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Charney's Menswear and Tuxedo Studios, 3150 Erie Boulevard East in Syracuse, New York, hanging out here with Mr. Mike Sofka inside of these Charney's Studios. Mike is coming to us from Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, and I'm, of course, of WakeUpCallDT.com, and we are both of Winning Fantasy Football on Facebook, our group for you to join today. Mike, we've gotten through our top 20. The quarterbacks that we have left on the list are, now I have Daniel Jones, but we both have Cleveland's Baker Mayfield, Chicago's Nick Foles / Mitch Trubisky, Carolina's Teddy Bridgewater, Indianapolis's Phillip Rivers, almost all of the AFC East in Sam Darnold of the Jets, Fitzpatrick and Tua Tagovailoa of Miami, New England's Jared Stidham. We have Washington's Kyle Allen, / Dwayne Haskins, Denver's Drew Lock, Vegas's Derek Carr, Chargers Tyrod Taylor and Justin Gilbert, and that is it. So the AFC West and the AFC East still leading us with the at the bottom, I should say. They are the bottom feeders of our rankings this year. Only one quarterback chosen from each so far. So where do you stand on number 21?
Well, you mentioned it right away, Baker Mayfield. I have to go with Baker Mayfield. There's a couple reasons why he's so far down on this list here. I think he took a step back last year. I think he needs to take a step forward, but I can't put all the blame on him. He's got weapons around him, but some of those weapons weren't there and readily available. This is a guy who had 3 different head coaches so far in 3 years. This is a guy in college who had 3 different head coaches. So he's used to change. He's used to adapting. What he has around him, though, they weren't happy with a David Njoku. I thought he was going to do a lot better than he did. So what do? They bring in Austin Hooper. And we talked about this in the past. When you go to the well, you just don't take a sip. You take a sip with you as well for the road. Yeah. What they did in Cleveland was they got Harrison Bryant, who should be, on the upswing here in the next year or two. But look for a big year from Austin Hooper. He's got Odell Beckham Jr., of course, Jarvis Landry. I don't think any of the other guys are going to make the impact players right away at the receiver position, but I like Nick Chubb and I like Kareem Hunt. This is an important year for Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb is a guy who's steady Eddie, can break it and any play, can break one loose, take it to the house. I like Baker Mayfield here at 21.
Yeah, we talked about it 2 years in a row, how talented the Browns were supposed to be and how good they were supposed to be, and how we thought that, 2 years ago they were going to do this and that. And then last year, well, okay, so they didn't do it last year, but they're going to do it, they're going to do it the next season, and they didn't do it last season. So it's hard for me to sit here today and say, oh yeah, I definitely want to for the third year in a row say that the Browns are going to get it done. But we're in a place right now, and Mike, you can appreciate the GIF that I'm putting up of Baker Mayfield for you just now. But I can't put Baker at number 21. I think they're extremely talented. Austin Hooper was a gem on the Falcons, right there with Julio Jones. I also think obviously Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. I mean, there's all this talent in Cleveland that is incredible and better than talent of other quarterbacks you've already ranked higher to throw to. But I just can't put Baker here. I know this guy is on kind of a test. Is he going to retire after this season? Can this city deal with two quarterbacks retiring in back-to-back seasons? And can they handle it? Because they both had big names. But I'm going to put Phillip Rivers in this test of the Colts. I think with T.Y. Hilton and the other talent that he has there, he's got talent at tight end. He's got talent in the backfield. I just feel that Phillip Rivers is going to bring something much needed there. I do like Jacoby Brissett. I do think Jacoby could, find his way back on the field potentially, but I think it's going to happen with injury. I think Phillip Rivers doesn't go there. This is like being a graduate senior. So if you're a grad, if you're a redshirt senior or whatever, and you go to another team in college, you're going to play. I mean, that's the whole point of going somewhere, is that you're going to be out there playing the game. So I think Phillip Rivers, as much as I like Jacoby and I covered him at NC State, Phillip doesn't go there unless he thinks it's going to be his time. So I think he's got the talent. I think he maybe resurrects the career of T.Y. Hilton a little bit. So I'm going to put him at number 21. I feel comfortable doing this, but ultimately how long he's going to stay there is kind of up in the air. And if any injury happens whatsoever, I think we're going to see the end of Phillip Rivers in the NFL. But I feel comfortable at 21. Yes, sir. Number 22.
I think that's great, but I'm going to stay with Baker Mayfield there. I'm going to move on to number 22.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater. And the reason why I'm going this low on Teddy Bridgewater, I believe he has the talent, but it's a new home. I believe he has impact players, weapons around him, but it's a new home. And he hasn't had that situation where the whole team was counting on him outside that short time in New Orleans. I think he's more than capable. I thought he was more than capable before that near catastrophic leg injury. I think Teddy Bridgewater has the weapons around him, and DJ Moore, I think he's awesome. I like Curtis Samuel, although there's been some mixed reactions that Curtis Samuel should have had a step up already. I like him to take a step up this year. Ian Thomas, my man, you got to make an impact here. This is your time. Step up. And, of course, one of the best running backs, especially in PPR, and Christian McCaffrey. The weapons are there. The defense is there. The coaching is there. The talent is there. Teddy Bridgewater has nowhere to go but up on my rankings, but right now he's number 22.
Yeah, and he finishes off the NFC South, as the NFC has really been taking it to the AFC in our rankings this season. I'm going to put Teddy Bridgewater here as well. Again, Baker's got a lot of talent, but I think Teddy has more than proven himself in recent history here. He's done some good things. Now, granted, he's got to take over a team. He was supposed to, be the guy in Minnesota, and he got hurt. And then he went on to New Orleans, and they didn't expect him to do much of anything. The team was undefeated at the time. The notion was, they were playing fantastic football. Breeze is gone, and they're like, all right, we'll pack up the season. It's him and Taysom Hill. And he ended up getting the job done. Not only that, he put up good numbers. He did more than I think anybody would have expected of him. Shout out to him for banking on himself and believing in himself, because that's where it starts. It starts homegrown out. So I like Teddy Bridgewater. I like that he's in Carolina. I like the talent that they have. I like the DJ Moores of the world. He's got the best running back in Christian McCaffrey. So there's a lot of good to be had here. And I let him go out of my top 20 because there are question marks, but I let him stay in that top 22 because, number one, I think that he's talented. Number two, I want to see consistency. Number three, it's a new team. And number four, I think he's better than Baker Mayfield. Who's your number 23, Mr. Sofka?
I got to go Phillip Rivers. You mentioned him before. He's got the best offensive line in all of football, in my opinion. They bring in another receiver in Michael Pittman Jr. They brought in a receiver last year in Paris Campbell. Zach Pascal stepped up. And T.Y. Hilton, if he can stay healthy, he's got guys there. He's got guys in a Jack Doyle and Trey Burton at tight end as well. Marlon Mack was a solid running back for them behind that stout offensive line, but now they bring in Jonathan Taylor, which can really push them. A Nyheim Hines or a Jordan Wilkins maybe on the third down plays, but I think Jordan Taylor can take over that backfield. I think they're going to rely more on the running game, less on Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is going to be able to pick his spots, which is going to be great for the team in the long run. They play indoors. Phillip Rivers is not worried about retiring. Phillip Rivers already has his next gig set up as a high school coach somewhere. Phillip Rivers is a solid quarterback. I like Phillip Rivers here at number 22, or 23, I should say.
It's crazy to see how good Derek Carr's numbers were last year. He's still on our list, and he's going to stay on my list because at number 23, I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. So, again, Daniel Jones I know is falling on my list here a bit here, but I think that Baker Mayfield has the talent. He should get it done. I don't want to come on to my own show for the third year in a row and go, Cleveland's going to be good this year. I know it because they were supposed to be good. And they were supposed to be good. And then they were supposed to be good this year. So we'll have to see what happens from here on out. But Baker Mayfield, if you can't get this done, then I'm going to draft. I'm going to look at drafting another quarterback. I mean, I know the Browns do it every couple of years, if not every season, but it's frustrating. And I know Freddie Kitchens wasn't going to be the right head coach, and I said that before the season even started. But here we are, and here is this moment. You have all the talent in the world. Again, fantasy-wise, the Cleveland Browns should make your mouth water. But Baker Mayfield as the quarterback, sometimes I'm like, oh, Baker's better than I thought he was. Sometimes I go, oh, he's Johnny Manziel 2.0. So, this is where I sit. This is why he's number 23. The talent is there. Just get it done, young man. Find a way. I mean, seriously. If not, then I'm relegating him to like a tier 3 type of quarterback if he can't figure it out this year. So hopefully things will work out. I know coaching has something to do with it, but hopefully we'll see some good things happen with Baker Mayfield, which brings us to number 24. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a guy you mentioned before, but a guy that has nothing but upside. He's got no pressure on him. And I say no pressure. Everybody say, oh, he's got all the pressure on him. No, he doesn't. He wasn't supposed to be here. When you're a 6th-round pick out of Washington State, Gardner Minshew is not supposed to be in this position. He's not supposed to be in this conversation right now. He's still supposed to be the backup. Well, you know what? He's not. He's the man. And you know why he's the man? He's got a lot of players around him. He's got a solid defense. And they brought in an offensive-minded offensive coordinator, a guy who likes to air it out. You know why he wasn't holding the clipboard at Alabama very long, Gardner Minshew? He went to Washington State and led the nation in passing. So you got a guy that led the nation in passing. You got an offensive coordinator that likes to throw the rock. And here you beef up your receivers. You go out and you get a Laviska Shenault. You have DJ Shark, who was near the top. I think he was number 2 on my adjusted explosive index a couple of years ago. So that should tell you where that system goes.
Yeah.
You have a D.D. Westbrook, who could have been a first-round draft pick, had some issues in college, knocked him down to about the 4th pick. Leonard Fournette looked to be catching the ball a lot more out of the backfield last year. You bring in the old man and Tyler Eifert. If he can stay on the field and teach some things to Josh Oliver and a Tyler Davis, who they just brought in, I think it's nothing but up for Gardner Minshew. Right now, he's number 24. Look for that to escalate. Look for him to move up. And look for him to be an impact player you can count on, at least as a backup at this point at number 24 on my rankings.
Yeah, and again, I think that's why he cracked my top 20, because I do think he has upside, and there's just something about him. There's just something about, sometimes you just know a player's just going to get it done. They're going to find that extra yardage somehow, some way. And for me, this one at number 24, it was between 2 guys, and one of them has better numbers, but I'm going to have to lean on the one that has one of the best running backs in the country. Mike mentioned him a while ago, and I'm going to have to go with Daniel Jones at number 24. So Daniel Jones is going to, eventually get onto my list here first and foremost, he has the best name that's ever been created, so we know that. But and by that I mean Jones. And so, but beyond this, we're looking at the fact that I think he's talented. Listen, I another guy covered in the ACC, got to interview at Duke, David Cutcliffe. Love his head coach. I think his head coach is a quarterback guru. I think he deserves to have that title. So for me, Daniel Jones, he puts in the work. He's been taught by the best. And I think that eventually we'll see some dividends pay off. I'm a little concerned with the receiving core with the Giants, which puts me in this place. I'm a little concerned with, I know that they spent a lot on the offensive line and drafted a bunch of them in this year's draft, but now I got to see it actually work out. But hopefully Daniel can get more comfortable. Hopefully they can protect him so that Saquon can do his job and take some of the burden off of him, but that Daniel can also repay the favor and take some of it off. So shout out to you, Mr. Jones. You get to number 24 on my list. And being named Daniel, we just know that there's two things that are possible. One, you're probably a good-looking dude. Number two, a straight ticket to heaven. So with that being said, Mike, let's go to number 25.
Yeah, number 25 is easy for me. I got to take Drew Lock, a guy with a lot of upside here. I look for another year of growth from him. When he stepped up last year, you could see the potential he has on the field. So what did they do? They rewarded him. They brought in his old tight end, and I'm going to butcher this name here, but I'm going to try. Old tight end is named college tight end. And this guy's a solid grab. It's not just because he knew the quarterback, but Albert Oakwood Newman, look it up. There's a lot of vowels in there. There's a lot of consonants in there. It's a long name. I'm not going to try to butcher it any more than I already have. But they beefed up their receiving core as well. They sent Emmanuel Sanders away. They still have Cortland Sutton. They still have Deshaun Hamilton. But they go out and get Jerry Jeudy. Are you kidding me? Then they got KJ Hamler. Look for him in the slot right away to make an impact. They didn't stop there, though. They went out and they got Melvin Gordon to go side by side with Phillip Lindsay. He's got all the weapons in place. They play in a mile-high city. It's a challenge for visiting teams to go there with the thinner air. I look for Drew Lock to take some steps up and shoot up my rankings. Right now, he's at number 25.
Yeah, I think that Drew Lock, again, another guy with upside, and that's where we're getting as we're getting toward the tail end of this. For me, I'm going to take a guy who's in the same division, but has been more so proven, and that's going to be Mr. Derek Carr. Now, Derek Carr was number 8 in the country last year with 4,054 passing yards. He was number 2 in the nation with 70.4% completion percentage. And then touchdowns-wise, Derek Carr was 10th with 21. And outside of that, I don't think there's much more to write home about because he's not a running quarterback. So I'm going to give Derek Carr number 25. This was between him and Drew Lock, so not the easiest of decisions, but Derek Carr having done a little bit more. They brought in Henry Ruggs III, which I love. So I think that this is going to be a good place for him and a good opportunity for Derek Carr to showcase himself. They're going to be in Vegas in that beautiful new stadium. And I just, the fact that John Gruden kept him around says something about the fact that John Gruden could be in a room with him, because apparently he couldn't be in a room with one of the greatest linebackers to ever come through potentially the NFL, one of the best ones we have now, the highest paid linebacker in the NFL, and a man that went to the University of Buffalo, and that being Khalil Mack. So Derek Carr was able to make it through the tests of John Gruden, and so that puts him at number 25 for me. I think that he has the talent to be higher, but hopefully Henry Ruggs will help him get there. And we know that his tight end game is on point too, thanks to some notes that Mike made last year. Mike, who's number 26 for you?
Sam Darnold. I got to go Sam Darnold here with the Jets. Again, upside potential here, but this is a situation where Sam Darnold can prove that they were right in taking him as high as they did a couple years ago. But Sam Darnold's a guy who's got some new talent, got some rookie talent around him, got some guys that are new to the team, and he's got some guys that are still hurt. He's got Le'Veon Bell, not a favorite of the head coach, but I think they're figuring that out. They bring in the old guy, Grandpa Frank Gore, and they draft Michael Perrine out of Florida, who I think is going to have an immediate impact. I don't think he's going to take over for Bell, but if he can get on the field, look for it to be difficult for him to come off the field. Jamison Crowder, Rashard Perryman, Denzel Mims they draft. Josh Doxson's new to the team. And don't forget Quincy Anua's on IR still. Now they got a couple tight end guys with a lot of upside. These guys are dark horse candidates for you, Chris Herndon and Ryan Griffin. So I like what they're doing. Nobody on this team has proved themselves in my eyes yet. That's why the ranking is so low for Sam Darnold. Look for that to improve as we get closer to the season and as the season progresses. But right now he's number 26, Sam Darnold.
Mike, I really, really, really hope that you appreciate the GIF that I just put up of Sam Darnold out indefinitely seeing ghosts. So good old Sam Darnold doing his thing. And, and obviously it was an interesting season last season. I thought he was going to step it up a little bit. Hopefully he will, especially for my buddy Ross Turetsky, I know, who's a big-time Jets fan. But I'm going Drew Lock at number 26. Mike mentioned it. He's got Cortland Sutton. He's got Jerry Jeudy. He's got a bunch of talent. They brought in Melvin Gordon. Don't forget they have Phillip Lindsay. So much in Denver. It's time to get it done. I'm hoping that Drew Lock put on some muscle and, got some weight there, make it tougher to take him down. But I'm excited to see Drew Lock. I'm excited to see what he can do. And hopefully things will develop in the right direction. I think he has upside, obviously, as we step into 2020, 2021. Mike, we're almost finished with our rankers here. Want to thank the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Their outside seating is now open, so you could sit around the volleyball court and whatnot. You can also order for delivery and curbside pickup. 315-487-2222. The place for fantasy football in Central and Upstate New York is the Wildcat, and my home for so many other things. Thank you to Danny Tome and the team. I give you the mile-high salute after saying Drew Lock. So, Mike, number 27, what do you got?
Yeah, I like Derek Carr here, and I like Derek Carr here because I don't think John Gruden has that much confidence in him. Look for a Marcus Mariota at some point during the year. And I think it's going to be a yin and yang situation on and off the field toward the end of the year. If they don't get out to a hot start, they should get out to a hot start. Now in Vegas, I like some of the weapons they have. I like Josh Jacobs. I like the ability for him to catch the ball out of the backfield. But Jalen Richard as well. Yeah. What did they do? They bring in Lynn Bowden Jr., who can be that wide receiver / running back, multi-purpose tool, Swiss Army knife guy. Darren Waller proved himself at tight end. The guy nobody knew who it was. We introduced him to you. And then receiver, they brought in 3 new names. Nelson Aguilar from Philadelphia. They drafted Henry Ruggs. They drafted him awful high, the speedster, the fastest guy in the draft. Look for them to send him on long patterns frequently. And if Brian Edwards, more of a project at wide receiver, but I like the addition. Zay Jones, is he finally going to do something? Renfro, is this going to be a step-up year for him? And Tyler Williams should lead that pack of receivers. So I think the weapons around Derek Carr are interesting. Look for Vegas. If they don't spark, if they don't get off to a hot start, look for them to look at that change of quarterback. And dare I say, we're looking at drafting a quarterback in the upcoming draft. Trevor Lawrence, maybe, in Vegas? Stay tuned for more on that much later, but I like Derek Carr here at number 27.
We know John Gruden loves his Clemson Tigers. He's been drafting them, since he came into the Raiders. So something to be said about that. I'm going with, and I got another fun GIF for him. Seems to have the good GIFs out there, and that's Sam Darnold. So number 27 for me, for Sam Darnold. I got to go with him in this situation because after this, we're getting into quarterbacks. A lot of these quarterbacks we're going to talk about that are in situations where we don't know who the declared starter is really going to be. Sam Darnold this past season, just to give you some notes here on him, he was tied for 24th with 61.9% completion percentage this season. His passing touchdowns were 12th with 19, which tied him with Matt Stafford, believe it or not. Matt Stafford got injured during the season. And then Sam Darnold, 25th with 3,024 yards. I liked his upside. I said as a rookie, I thought he'd be like Peyton Manning. He'd come in, throw a lot of interceptions. They wouldn't win a lot of games. As a sophomore, I thought he'd get better. But, Adam Gase, I just don't trust as the coach of this team. He didn't get it done in Miami. He comes from the same division, and they hire him like wildfire. Like there was a million people going after him. They're like, we got to get Adam Gase. Like he just won a Super Bowl. They bring him into the Jets. So I don't know how that's going to work. And Sam Darnold seeing ghosts, I don't know how that's going to help you out. I did help the career of Haley Joel Osment for a little while, so I think that that's positive. But beyond that, it puts him at number 27. And Sam, that's because I'm not quite confident in who the starters are going to be after this. So that's why you're here. You're like the last known starter to me. Number 28, Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, I got to go with something that Bill Belichick knows that nobody else knows, because they're sitting pat right now. And I don't know what we'd be talking about a Cam Newton in New England before this season starts, but Jarrett Stidham. And I'm going to trust Belichick here, but I have to see it first. I can't rank you any higher than where I have you right now at 28, and that's sad in a way. But again, they got solid weapons. Julian Edelman, yeah, he's getting long in the tooth, but N'Keal Harry should be ready to get on the field. Mohamed Sanu should provide some more veteran leadership there as well. Jacoby Myers, is this the guy who we're going to see take another giant leap? And a Marquise Lee is showing up there in New England. Look out for him to finally start playing. Now that he's left Jacksonville, he'll stay healthy and he'll be a Pro Bowl player and all that. I want you to look for a couple names, though, especially if you're in a dynasty situation. Devin Ossie. Now, I know you're going to say, well, they took two tight ends. They took Dalton Keene and Ossie. They took two tight ends for a very good reason. Look at what the Ravens do. They have a guy who's more so the blocking tight end, and every once in a while they'll send him out for a pass. Ossie's more the guy that's going to stretch the field. Ossie's more the tall receiver who's going to go up and get the ball and make big plays. And Dalton King is going to be more like the guy that's the blocking guy, more like the guy. Not that Ossie can't block, and not that King can't catch the ball, but look for that to be their primary roles. Sony Michel, he's a rocket. James White, Rex Burkhead. These are guys that all contribute. Everybody seems to contribute on a Belichick team. If you're on Belichick's team, you better be ready to put the helmet on, strap it on tight, and get in there and play. It's not so much we have these starters and everybody else. It's that whole team can be a starter at any time. You never know who the king running back's going to be, who's going to score 4 touchdowns one week and be bagging groceries the next. So Jarrett Stidham is a very interesting play here. I look for him to rise up this board as the year goes on, but I think Jarrett Stidham's worthy of number 28 only on the rankings so far.
Let it be known that Mike said Bill Belichick and Strap-On in the same discussion. Anywho, so as we move on, I am going to agree with you, and I'm going to put Jarrett Stidham here as well, because there's a lot of unknowns. Again, if this man emerges as the next, if he's as good as Tom Brady or almost as good as Tom Brady and somewhere in that line, then, I'm doing an investigation myself. And it's going to be like investigating, it's going to be like when they say, like, you go to the Vatican and you got to go to the catacombs and underneath and all that stuff, or the Louvre in France. There's going to be so many people trying to find me. There's going to be, like, bodies found everywhere, crazy stuff going on, secret chambers. That's what I expect to see underneath Foxborough and underneath the house of Bill Belichick. So this is a Lifetime movie waiting to happen. I want to know what's in the bunker, and I want to know how you got all these serums that are making all these things happen. But if Jarrett Stidham is the truth, then either one of two things is true. Either Bill Belichick has one of the greatest heists of all time and whatever he's been able to do and whatever he's stolen and whatever he's using it for, or he's a friggin' genius. It's probably the second one, but let me have fun with my Bill Belichick movie in the first one. By the way, my Bill Belichick shirt would be awesome, because happiness, sadness, everything, frustration, constipation, it all looks the same on Bill Belichick's face. So with that being said, we said Strap-On yesterday, or last week we said put the lotion in the basket, and now Jarrett Stidham is number 28 as a fantasy quarterback. He'll probably rise up to number 4 or 7 for all we freaking know here. But that's where he's at, and after this, Mike, it gets ugly. So let's jump into number 29.
Yeah, Dwayne Haskins. He's got to appear somewhere on the list just because. Well, because he's got some talent. He's got some talent at running back around him. Darius Geis, Adrian Peterson, Peyton Barber, J.D. McKissick, Bryce Love. Any one of these guys is capable. It's a matter of which one of the guys is going to be healthy and which one of the guys are going to be actually getting it done. You take a look at receiver. Yeah, they brought in Antonio Gandy Golden, but is he going to be able to see the field behind a Cody Latimer? Is he finally going to make an impact? You got Steven Sims, who looked like he had some shining moments, Trey Quinn, Kelvin Harmon, and Terry McLaurin. Every time I see this guy, he's running for a long pass. Reminds me a lot of the Hollywood cat out of Baltimore for the Ravens. So I think that they have somebody to stretch the field. Is Jeremy Sprinkle going to step up at tight end? Dwayne Haskins, they brought in the Carolina coach. And who did they bring in? They bring in the the quarterback who stepped up for Cam Newton and Kyle Allen. I'm convinced that Dwayne Haskins is not going to be the year-long starter. Look for Kyle Allen at some point. And right now I have Dwayne Haskins as number 29 quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm going to put this, I'm going to agree with you, Mike, of all the rest of the we don't knows, the one where it could be this guy or that guy. I think that's where I get down to at this point. I look at all the teams that are left and I go, okay, so of the best tandems, who would I lean on and believe? Dwayne Haskins, I want to believe, has upside. But again, we talk about how great his season was at Ohio State, but it was a season. So, we want to see that consistency. It didn't seem like he had the relationship with Jay Gruden, so we'll see what he has with Ron Rivera. But I chose, because Ron Rivera is the head coach, that was part of my decision. Part of my decision is believing that Dwayne's got something in the tank, and I like Kyle Allen, who came from Carolina, and they played like 3 or 4 quarterbacks last year. So I'm going to agree with you on this one, and I'm going to go with I'm going to call it the Redskins duo of Dwayne Haskins and Kyle Allen. I think of all the duos out there, they slightly edged one of the other ones that I have. Who do you have for number 30?
Yeah, number 30, I'm going with Tua Tagovailoa, and I'm going with him because I think he's going to get more play. I'm not saying he's going to be the starter day one, but this is an exciting guy, and anytime he's on the field, he's one of those guys that commands attention, and I really like that because you want to see what this guy's going to do next. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a great weapon for them to have. Harvard guy. This is a guy who's smart. He's been around the block. Look, you don't get to where Ryan Fitzpatrick is by being stupid or not being a smart player. If he can put some of that into Tua's head, if he can help him along, I think it's going to go far in Tua's career. I think Tua's going to play more of the year than Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick starts the year, and at some point we see Tua maybe sooner rather than later. They bring in a Jordan Howard, a Matt Breida. They had Kellen Balaj. Devontae Parker, is he going to continue to step up in the right direction? Alan Hearns making a stop there. Preston Williams. And, of course, Mike Gesicki. I look for a big year from Mike Gesicki this year. But until one of these guys really proves themselves, this is where they're at. They're on the back end here, Tua number 30.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here with Tua. It was close with the next one I have on the list, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, we know he's done some great things. We know he's done it in the great state of Florida when he was there with Tampa, done some great work. For some reason, Tampa's backups seem to do better than their starters a lot of times on the Buccaneers, but now they have Tom Brady. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, mind you, tied for 10th last year in rushing yards, and he's been in the league for a while, and you don't think of him as a running quarterback. 243 rushing yards. He had 4 touchdowns to tie Kyler Murray, Ryan Tannehill, Andy Dalton, and Jacoby Brissett. And outside of that, Ryan's completion percentage was 62%, and overall his yardage that he had last year was 17th with 3,529. Tua Tagovailoa, I think, is going to take over eventually. Miami, I think it's looking up for you. I think you got a fun guy who could get it done in Fitzpatrick, and you got one of my favorites in Tua Tagovailoa, another jersey I want to buy just to have. So, Mike, who's number 31?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tyrod Taylor here. Tyrod Taylor is the poor man's Lamar Jackson. Tyrod Taylor is a guy who can run the ball. He's kind of conservative in the passing arm, and that's okay because he has the wheels to make up the difference. But I don't think he's had this much talent around him. He didn't have a Keenan Allen. He didn't have a true number one receiver. Mike Williams is able to make an impact on just about anybody's team. And Hunter Henry's one of the top tight ends. He'll be your starter if he's on your team. Not sure about the direction they're going at running back, though. Bringing in Joshua Kelly, but still having the Justin Jackson, who I look to make some leaps and strides this year. Look for him on the back end of your draft as a quality and value pick. Austin Eckler's finally going to get his time to shine here. So he's a guy they like to throw the ball to. Look for him in PPR leagues to be a top 10 player as well just because of that. I like Tyrod Taylor, but I don't like him any better than where I have him here right now at number 31.
Yeah, you know what? And I have the same here, and that's what I was talking about the closeness of all this. Justin Herbert also drafted to be a part of the future. I think Tyrod Taylor doesn't get enough credit, but I think we may see Justin, we may not. I think it's a big question mark about how Tyrod starts off his season because the AFC, outside of the Chiefs, the AFC West is wide open right now. So I think that there is an opportunity for Justin, but I also think that you can't count out Tyrod Taylor, who I have his autograph from the Bills. Thank you very much. So that would leave our final team on the list as Chicago, which we would agree on, Mike. Nick Foles / Mitch Trubisky would be number 32 for us.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm at Nick Foles, and I have Trubisky ranked 34. And for the record, I have Fitzpatrick at 33, and I have Trubisky at 34. I have Justin Herbert at 35, and then a Cam Newton projecting he's going to land somewhere. Look, I think Chicago dig themselves in with Trubisky. I think they took him too high. They could have had a better impact player. They tried to recover nicely. I like some of the moves they've made. Look, they had problems connecting with the tight end. They blamed it on Trey Burton. They got rid of him. What did they do? They bring in a Jimmy Graham, and they draft a Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's a guy that you're going to want to draft in your fantasy redrafts this year on the back end value pick. Jimmy Graham's going to be the guy there to start, though, and he's going to be that veteran presence for Cole Kmet. I like that a lot. Allen Robinson should lead the team in catches and targets. He's in a contract here. Anthony Miller, Cordell Patterson, I should say, David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen. He doesn't have all the dynamic players that he needs around him at quarterback, Foles or Trubisky. Look for Trubisky to be the starter, but then look for Foles to come in and quickly take over.
Yeah, I think Nick Foles is going to end up being the guy in the grand scheme of things here, but I have the Bears situation at number 32, and that's where we sit. So Mike and I started off agreeing. We ended up agreeing for the most part, and in the middle, differentiated a little bit. Mike, as always, I appreciate your time. Fantasy running backs are next week, so make sure June 17th you're with us, and join us on Winning Fantasy Football on our Facebook group, Winning Fantasy Football. Mike, as always, of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. Thank you, sir. And keep it sunny. I'm enjoying the sun up here finally for 2 weeks, and I'll talk with you soon.
All right, thanks, Dan. Talk to you next time.
All right, take care. That coming from Mr. Mike Sofka here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And rounding out today's show, just want to say thank you to each and every single one of you. You're tremendous. You're amazing. Thank you to Mike for being my guest today. And thank you to you for listening and for watching inside of the Charney's Men's Wear and Tuxedo Studios, 3150 Erie Boulevard East in Syracuse, New York. Find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Get all of our fantasy football information on our fantasy football page on wakeupcalldt.com, as well as the broadcast page. I'll talk with you tomorrow morning. Great show coming up. God bless. No stress. Do your best.